Just how deep is the 2025 Dynasty rookie class? We were talking about that in today's video. A quick announcement real quick. We do have a Discord that we set up. You can copy the Patreon link below in order to get the link to our Discord. And in there, we will answer whatever questions you have. Trade questions. If you're doing a startup and you need help, you're on the clock, we'll help you. Start, sit during the season. Who should I sit? Who should I start? We'll help you there. And hopefully, if we get enough people in the Discord, we'll start putting together new Dynasty leagues, startup leagues, and some redraft fantasy leagues. I know it's hard for a lot of people to get into Dynasty leagues because you need to find 10 or 12 people who are willing to do it. Well, this is the place. Join the community. The link below. And at the very least, just like and subscribe to the channel. We would appreciate that. So we're talking about the 2025 Dynasty class, rookie class. And I know it's June, right? The college football season is a month and a half or so away from starting. A lot is going to change from now until the draft next year. I understand that, but it is always good to start looking ahead a little bit. Just imagine if you did your homework for the 2024 class around this time last year and you said, holy crap, the 2024 class is stacked, and you gathered a bunch of second round and early third round picks in preparation for the Dynasty rookie draft in 2024. You won your draft. You potentially turned around your whole team, either by the players you drafted or the moves you made. So we're just doing a quick look at the top 5 from the quarterback, running back, wide receiver position, as well as the top 3 from the tight end position. And this is according to Mock Draft Database. This is the consensus big board. So, this takes it, puts together a bunch of different big boards, mock drafts, and things like that. And it tells you kind of where their consensus big board is. So first up with the quarterbacks, we have Carson Beck. Now, there's a couple sites that do have Carson Beck as the number 2 guy, but almost everyone that I've seen has him as a top 2 quarterback. Overall, consensus big board, number 3, he is a favorite to go number 1 overall. That's for sure. Is a favorite to go number 1 overall. You see his stats there from 2023. Almost 4,000 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Not the greatest athlete, that doesn't do much on the ground, which is a little bit concerning in today's NFL. You do want guys who are a little bit mobile, not necessarily running the ball, but just being able to scramble, keep plays alive, get out of the pocket when you need to. But he has kind of all the physical traits that you need. He's pretty good in the pocket. He has a good arm talent. He gets you the ball there. Like I said, good in the pocket. He has the ideal size, the 6'4", 220 size, which is kind of what you look for in a quarterback. So a lot of people think he is going to be the number 1 quarterback taken and potentially the number 1 overall pick. And as you see here, he's number 3 on the consensus big boards. And the consensus big boards, by the way, include all players, not just quarterbacks. That's all players. So defensive players, offensive linemen, everyone. He's 3rd overall. Shedeur Sanders is pretty much the consensus number 2 guy for most people, I would say. Actually, this top 5 that we're going to go over here is relatively consensus. The top 3 is pretty consensus. And then 4 and 5, I think, maybe 4, 5, 6, maybe you can interchange those guys a little bit depending on what side you're looking at. But Shedeur Sanders, you look at his numbers here, 3,200 yards passing, 27 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. I was a little bit surprised about that. 9th overall prospect on the consensus big board. He obviously came onto the scene big last year. He's played a couple years in college, but played at Colorado. They had the big upset. Shedeur Sanders was looking really, really good to start the year. And that Colorado team just kind of fell apart. Not because of Shedeur Sanders, mostly because of the offensive line. They were just absolutely dominated. Their offensive line was just not up to snuff. They had the skill position players, both on the offensive and defensive side. They did not have offensive or defensive linemen, and it really showed, man. Shedeur Sanders was getting absolutely wrecked. So much so, in college, they count sacks towards your rushing total. So if you get minus 5 yards sack, you get minus 5 yards rushing as a quarterback. And he had minus 77 yards rushing because of all the sacks that he took. Now, sacks aren't specific. They aren't always on the offensive line. Sometimes they're on the quarterback. This is a case, though, where a majority of these ones were on the offensive line. They were just outmatched pretty terribly. So I'm excited to see. A lot of people think he could potentially be the number 1 overall pick or the number 1 quarterback off the board. I do think he has some athleticism in terms of being able to scramble, get out of the pocket, and run the ball. I think he runs like a low 4.6, if I'm not mistaken. Some of his weaknesses, the lack of experience against big time talent is one of the weaknesses, I would say. Want to see him throw with his legs a little bit more. So we want to see him put up really good numbers, hopefully improve this next year, and hopefully the team overall just improves and they can protect him a little bit better. So that is Shedeur Sanders, and Quinn Ewers is kind of rounding out the top 3. Now, we talk about how much can change from now until the end of the season, even from now until October, but definitely to the end of the season, to the start of the draft season. I think Quinn Ewers is a prime candidate to potentially fall out of the first round. Right now, mock draft database has him as the consensus big board number 16 overall. So as of where we stand right now, it feels pretty safe that 3 quarterbacks are going to be first round picks. Potentially 2 in the top 5, and Quinn Ewers, later on in the draft, we'll see where he goes. Maybe in the top 10 to 12 or so. That's as of right now. Now, like I said, I think there's a good chance that Quinn Ewers falls out of the first round. I don't think he was very impressive last year. I really don't think he was that impressive. Considering the talent that he had, the talent that he had on that team, just think about the skill position players he had. Xavier Worthy, first round pick. A.D. Mitchell, second round pick. A lot of people thought maybe could sneak into the first round, but a high second round pick. At least he didn't fall that high, but he went a little bit later. Jatavian Sanders, a tight end, was drafted in the 4th round. Jonathan Brooks, their running back, was drafted in the 2nd round, high second round pick. They even have Jordan Whittington, another receiver, drafted in this draft. So you add that to I believe they had offensive tackle taken, maybe not until like the 5th round, but they had at least 1 or 2 drafted. So I just think he's a prime candidate to kind of regress a little bit. And it does worry me just a bit. I just thought with all that talent there, he should have been better. And Texas's offense, I think, should have been a little bit more consistent, and it just wasn't. So that's what worries me a little bit about Quinn Ewers. A little bit, other than that, he does have, like, his arm talent is there, right? He looks Mahomes-ish sometimes out in the field with his side arms and ability to throw the ball and things like that, but just needs to be consistent. 2 more quarterbacks that are, again, 4 and 5. Jalen Milroe is always in the top 5 from what I've seen. Now, he's a little bit different than the other guys. He is more of a runner. As you can see, I put his rushing stats on. The other 3 guys didn't have anything really significant to write for rushing. Jalen Milroe, from Alabama, 2,800 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, six interceptions, but he ran for over 500 yards and 12 touchdowns. So he accounted for 35 total touchdowns. So he's a little bit different from the other guys. The other guys are a little bit more, in the pocket type of players. Whereas Milroe, obviously his biggest strength is his ability to escape pressure, his athleticism. He does have really good arm strength. I'm not trying to say he can't throw the ball. He does have really good arm strength. He's going to be perfect in an RPO type of system. His decision-making, you'd like to see improve, which definitely could this year. We will see. And, in the college game, quarterbacks who are super athletic, like the best athletes on the team, tend to rely on that athleticism a little bit too much, and hold on the ball too much, try to make a play spectacular when you should just take the check down or throw it away or run. And he can do that sometimes, but I expect him to go over Quinn Ewers personally, and I think he is, obviously, I think he's a really good chance to go in the first round, even though he's big board 31st overall, which is a fringe first round pick. He's a quarterback, so he gets that positional boost. And then the last guy we're going to talk about is Cameron Ward. He is the quarterback at Miami now. Cameron Ward played at Washington State the last 2 years, but now he transferred to Miami, I believe. Interesting guy here in Cameron Ward. Again, most people have him as their fifth guy. I've seen other quarterbacks ahead of him, but at worst, I think I've seen him sixth as their QB6 in this draft class. You can see his numbers there. Really good passing numbers. 3,700 yards, 25 touchdowns. Also can do things on the ground. 144 yards on 120 carries. Obviously, the sacks taking away from that. And then eight touchdowns on the ground is good to see. He's a stockier guy. He's 6'2", 220. So he's built a little bit bigger, which is good. Because if he's going to be, in the NFL, you want to be able to take hits. Definitely has a really strong arm, and he's very, very accurate, by the way. It's not just a big arm. The dude's really, really accurate, in my opinion. Like, he has, especially under pressure, right? His accuracy maybe can improve, but he has good arm strength, not great, but good arm strength and good accuracy, especially under pressure. He's very good at making decisions and things like that. And just, again, needs to be consistent. Don't take the unnecessary sacks, which he did a lot. And then maybe make a little bit better decisions under pressure. But he's going to be interesting. I think he's going to move up boards. Goes to Miami, goes to a big time school. And I think he's going to do very well with that team. So I expect him to be a first-round pick. If there's anyone outside the first round right now, I expect him to be a first-round pick. Drew Allar, I think it is, from Penn State, is another guy that I've seen ranked in the top 5. But according to Mock Draft Database, these are the top 5. The running back class is, for how much people downplayed or disrespected the running back class from 2024, 2025 is amazing. I think I saw a mock draft where 4 running backs went in the first round. I don't think that's going to happen, but man, that just shows you the talent. Quinshon Judkins is Quinshon Judkins is the consensus RB1 again between him and Ollie Gordon. The second is the number 2 guy that we're going to talk about. They kind of are flipped on depending on what site you looked at. Quinshon Judkins is he transferred to Ohio State, so he's going to a big time school that is going to use the hell out of him. You look at his numbers there at Ole Miss, he was already at a big time school, but last year 1,158 yards rushing, 17 total touchdowns, can catch the ball, as you can see there. Actually, his numbers wise, his 2022 season was better. He had over 1,500 yards rushing and 17 touchdowns, but still was really good for Ole Miss last year, and I'm excited to see what he does at Ohio State, because it's going to be very interesting, because there's another guy on Ohio State who's on this list, which we'll get to, but Ollie Gordon II is up next. Ollie Gordon II is my RB1 in this draft class as of right now. He's my RB1 at Oklahoma State. Monster numbers last year, over 2,000 total yards and 22 touchdowns, 39 catches is pretty insane for a running back to catch that many passes. Ollie Gordon to me is my RB1 in this draft class. I like Quinshon Judkins a lot, but I'd rather have Ollie Gordon. I think he has a chance to go very high in the draft, like a Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs-esque. I'm not saying he's those type of players, but just like that type of draft class. He's fast. He's a workhorse. He's big. He's 6'1", 210. He can even put on a little bit more weight. Maybe he has some of his flaws. Like, I don't want to get into too much of the strengths and weaknesses. This is more of just an introduction to these guys. But I think he has it all personally, and I'm excited to see where he goes, how he does this year, and I hope he is a first-round pick. Another player, Travion Henderson, interesting kind of career up until this point. I think going into the 2023 season, he was considered like the number 1 running back. He had a really good freshman year, rushed for had over 1,600 total yards and 19 touchdowns. Got hurt in 2022, but still, was decent. Last year, I think he missed 3 games. Still had over 1,155 yards, 11 touchdowns. it's just interesting now with Quinshon Judkins there. Like, what is that going to mean for Travion Henderson? What I like about Henderson is he's the perfect running back size. He's like 5'10", 215. He runs in the high 4.3s, I believe. Just very elite elusiveness, contact balance, open field runner. Now he had a foot injury, which is concerns about durability. If he gets another injury, he's going to fall off the draft board. Pass protection isn't there like it is for a lot of college guys. It's just going to be interesting. I'm not saying like both him and Judkins can thrive in this offense. I'm just going to be interested to see how they use him, who's going to be the lead guy. I just felt like Travion Henderson would have been better potentially coming out in this rookie class. Maybe not, but considering it was kind of a weaker running back class, I thought maybe he'd be a little bit better off there doing that. Another guy that I've seen as he's number 4 on our list, this top 5 is pretty consistent across most people's big boards, but Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. I've seen him projected to be a first-round pick potentially. So I didn't even talk about the big boards. We have Judkins as the big board 29, Ollie Gordon 33, Travion Henderson 41, and Hampton as the number 46 overall prime. So you're talking about 4 guys, actually 5 guys, because the next guy is 2 in the top 50. So a couple of these guys could easily sneak into the first round. But you see his numbers there of over 1,700 total yards, 16 touchdowns, going along with 29 catches. Omarion Hampton, good size, 6 foot, 220. I believe he runs in the low to mid 4.4s. His initial burst is apparently really good in the open field. So excited to see him and where he goes. This running back class is just absolutely stacked. Ashton Jonty, I believe, or Jainty. Bad with names. I'm sorry. I have a hard time remembering them. From Boise State, dude was an absolute monster for Boise State. As you can see here, just was their offense, really. Like, this dude is an absolute monster. Over 1,900 total yards and 19 touchdowns, 43 catches is pretty insane. I think he was second on the team in receiving, just to show you, like, just how dominant he was. He was their offense. So I really like another player that could be could rise up draft boards, but could be is already projected to be kind of an early second round pick. Good size, 5'9", 210, runs a low 4.4. Again, it just is everything. Now, when my only, I guess, concern about him is when he plays a little bit better competition. And I'm just double checking this. He played Washington. In terms of rushing, wasn't as good. He had 4 catches for 109 yards, which is awesome. Just looking at other teams that they played, like UCLA, he was good, not great when they played him in the, I believe, in the bowl game. So would like to see him be a little bit better against top competition. But there's other guys. Nick Singleton is a second-round pick. Projected second-round pick. Donovan Edwards, a lot of people love, and we're going to see him. Trevor Etienne, Raheem Sanders, who was like, he was considered like the top guy going into 2023, or one of. So there's a lot of really good running backs in this draft class. Moving right along, and I'm going to butcher this name, to the wide receivers. Tetaroa McMillan from Arizona. Him and Luther Burden are potential top 10 picks. Yeah, both of those guys are potential top 10 picks. So there's still a couple really good receivers here. You see his numbers there, 90 catches, 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns. I'm not sure who my wide receiver 1 is as of yet. It is between one of these guys where we stand now. But I'm not 100% sure who exactly it is. But, man, this guy in McMillan is potentially the guy. He has the size, the 6'5", 210. Despite smaller receivers, being more successful in the NFL, we still love the big receivers that are fast, big, fast, and strong, right? Those are still like the elite players that we want. Doesn't mean you have to be that to be successful, but those are still the guys that people are going to fall in love with. He's 6'5", 210. He runs a low 4.5 or a high 4.4. So he's going to put up massive numbers at Arizona, in my opinion. And it's going to be fun to see him and the next guy, Luther Burden, who is going to be the wide receiver one, because I think they're pretty different players, whereas McMillan is more of that, that old school 6'5", 210, runs a 4.5, contested catch kind of guy. Luther Burden, a little bit smaller. He's 5'11", 208. So he's a little bit more compact. He's faster, obviously. Just really good like body control and things like that. You see his numbers there, pretty big numbers as well. 86 catches, 1,200 yards, and 9 touchdowns for him. So both these guys, as you can see, consensus big board number 10 and 11 back-to-back. Both these guys. It'd be fun to watch who's going to be the wide receiver one. Put your money on one of these guys. These are the consensus top 2 guys going into the season. That could change, of course, but I would put my money on one of these guys being the first wide receivers taken off the board. Emeka Egbuka is next up. He fell off a little bit last year, just a little bit of a down year, I'd say. He was hurt, missed a few games, but 41 catches, 515 yards, 4 touchdowns. His 2022 season was really, really good. With CJ Stroud and JSN there and Marvin Harrison, who I don't think made much of an impact, but 75 catches, 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, gets overshadowed by all the talent there, including Marvin Harrison Jr. Still is a first-round pick pretty comfortably, I think, unless he regresses again or just doesn't improve. I expect him to, though. I think he's a really good player. You can see there as the big board number 20. So he's kind of in that range of, he'll go in that range of 10 to 20 potentially is kind of what, people are expecting from Emeka Egbuka, who doesn't have to compete with Marvin Harrison Jr. this year. He's 6'1", 206. He's freaking fast, man. Holy crap. The guy is going to run potentially in the 4.2s. Like his speed is absolutely insane. So speed kills. People love speed. So he's fun to watch. Expect him to have a bounce back here. Those 3 seem to be the consensus top 3. And then from there, it gets a little wonky about who's the next couple of guys. Isaiah Bond, as you can see him there, in the Alabama uniform, but he transferred to Texas. 48 catches, 668 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Now, I know those numbers do not look sexy, but if we go back real quick to Jalen Milroe's numbers, he only threw for 2,800 yards, right? I don't think there was many other, if I remember correctly, I don't think they really had anyone else with significant amount of passing yards. So you're talking about, 23-ish, 24% of the team's offense, passing offense, in Isaiah Bond here with the 668 yards. He goes to Texas, so he goes with Quinn Ewers. It'll be fun to see where he goes. I think he's pretty comfortably in the top 5 for a lot of people. Another absolute burner, though. Another burner. He's smaller. He's one of those smaller receivers. 5'11", 180 is what he's listed at right now, but he runs a 4.2. So he's kind of this new age of wide receiver that's becoming more and more successful. We saw it with Tank Dell last year. Hopefully we'll see it with Xavier Worthy this year. But yeah, he has some blazing speed. So can he win on the outside? That's going to be something that's going to be what we'd like to see him do this year. We will see. Evan Stewart's the last wide receiver on this list here. As you can see, again, Texas A&M wear his uniform, but he's actually on Oregon now. So he's probably going to put up massive numbers considering that offense just absolutely caters, 100% caters to passing and offense. And just look at like Troy Franklin's numbers, Bo Nix's numbers last year. But Evan Stewart, not impressive raw numbers, 38 catches, 514 yards, 4 touchdowns, but he did miss 5 games. And by the way, that 514 yards, even though he missed 5 games, was good for third best on the team. Their leading receiver was just under 800 yards. They didn't have a huge passing offense, Texas A&M. Looks like they had about 3,600 yards passing total. So not like a huge number. And it was very spread out between, Anaya Smith, Jada Walker, and Evan Stewart. So I expect him to have huge, massive numbers with Oregon. Now, don't necessarily fall in love with those numbers and say, like, look how awesome he is. But he's also, he's a little bit closer like the Devonta Smith build, like the 6 foot 175, just like the Slim Reaper build. Another really fast guy, runs in the low 4.3s. So fun. It'll be fun to see him on Oregon. I have 3 tight ends for you to kind of wrap this video up. 3 tight ends to keep an eye out for. Colston Loveland is probably going to be a first-round pick at the tight end position. You can see his numbers from last year from Michigan: 45 catches, 650 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And those are impressive numbers for Michigan, especially. Those are absolutely impressive numbers. I think, it was second to Roman Wilson. So, J.J. McCarthy only threw for not even 3,000 yards. Michigan as a team threw for like 3,100, 3,200 yards. So Colston Loveland is 650 of those, right? So you do the math, right? If they threw for about 3,200 yards, he's accounting for over 20% of the team's passing offense. So he's probably going to be a number 1 first-round draft pick at the tight end position. He is an interesting one because he is kind of this new build of tight end where they're not 260, they're 240, 245, which is kind of what we want to see. But the dude's going to be awesome. Like, he's going to be awesome. He's going to have a big year, and he's going to be a first-round pick. There's 2 other tight ends that are kind of projected to be second-round picks as of right now. Luke Lockey, I believe is how you say his name, 67th on the big board, which is just outside of the second round, but he could move up. You see his numbers there from 2022 because he basically missed the entire year last year. 28 catches, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Again, not very sexy numbers, but then you go look at Iowa. How many yards did they pass for? Iowa didn't even pass for 2,000 yards that year. So it was Sam Laporta and Luke Lockey that were dominating the target. Sam Laporta had 657 yards receiving, whereas Lockey had 398, which was second best on that team. Again, a team that didn't even throw. I think they threw for 1,950 yards, if I'm just doing quick math. So even with only having 400 yards, that's still over 20% of the team's offense, passing offense. Again, was hurt last year, only played in 3 games. He had 131 yards in those 3 games. 131 yards in those 3 games and 10 catches. So those are pretty good numbers. They're not great, but those are pretty good numbers considering, again, how many games, passing yards per game for Iowa last year, 118 yards. So you're averaging 40, you're averaging a third of your team's yards right there. So they were just pretty piss poor, Iowa, they have been in terms of passing the ball. So Luke Lockey is someone, another Iowa tight end to keep an eye on. He has, 6'6", 250. He's a little bit more like a traditional tight end. So interested to see how he does. And then the last guy here is Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame. He is a kind of a fringe second rounder as well right now. Again, you see his numbers: 29 catches, 422 yards, and 1 touchdown. Also kind of in that frame of like a bigger tight end or a traditional tight end, 6'5", 260. He's going to be an awesome blocker, which teams are going to love, kind of like a Michael Mayer. He's not this burner elite athlete. He just makes plays, get the ball in his hands, good after the catch. Again, really excited to see how he does. Mitchell Evans, that is. And I was just looking at Notre Dame's passing numbers last year just to kind of see where he was. They have decent passing, 3,100 yards or so, but he was second on the team, Mitchell Evans. So there you have it, guys. The 2025 draft class. If we look at this, if we just take it for what it is right now, we're looking at 1, 2, 3. I'm going to count Milroe as 4. So we're looking at 4 first-round quarterbacks. 1, 2, let's just say 2, because running backs get devalued. 2 first-round running backs. So that's 6 players. We're we're looking at 1, 2, 3, probably 4 first-round receivers. There's 10 and a first. We're looking at about 11 first-round picks at the 11 first-round picks in terms of fantasy football positions. So still pretty good. I think this last year we had like 13, 14, 15 maybe. So still really, really good. But there you have it, guys. We're going to be tracking these guys all year long. Make sure to like and subscribe. Join the Discord if you haven't already. Appreciate you all. We'll see you all in the next video.